These little boogers are testing my patience because it has been so difficult to get any video of them without them running away, and on top of it they've been exceptionally cranky, and when the kids come in here to try and feed, the babies are now big enough that they try to chase the kids, so they're a little bit crankier than their parents are. So that's something that I didn't anticipate because their parents are pretty chill, but I have my eye on these guys. Now, as you can see, that little one in the front, they're not so little now. I keep saying little ones because they're only about 3 months old, and man, they are growing fast. So to me, they're little ones because they're the babies, but they're not so little. You can see these in the back are the size of their parents, which is absolutely insane. It really is. This one up here closest to me is their mom, and she's kind of preening herself, but but the rest of them are just trying to avoid me. Realistically, that's what they're doing. I mean, honestly, anywhere I decide to walk, they're deciding to go in the opposite direction, which is crazy because usually they're chasing me around to see if I have any treats, or right now it's mostly like turnips from the garden is a lot of what I bring them, and they're annoyed with me because I didn't bring any, and so they're just like, go away, annoying human who doesn't bring us treats today. One thing that I really wanted to update on was not just the sheer size. One thing I noticed is that they are becoming a lot more vocal and actually honking. Now, they started honking about 5 weeks ago, but you can hear them now. They have no more baby sounds whatsoever. They do make this really cute whistling sound for a good 2 months, and then they start to make a honking sound, and very quickly after they start figuring out how to honk, that cute baby whistle goes away completely. So that's one thing I noticed. Another thing that I've never said, but I think it's really important to note, is that that fleshy pink part on the end of their bill, they do not get that until they are about between 4 and 6 weeks old. I think 6 weeks is really when I noticed it. They always had it, but it becomes more prominent. Their bills really start to change colors and brighten up, especially as they feather out. Now, if any of you have been following these babies from hatch, you know that they were yellow and gray. So the females tend to have some gray on them, and the Embden geese, especially if they're under a year old. And so their parents are just barely a little bit over a year old. They were 9 months old when I got them, and they immediately started laying eggs, which was really incredible. I was super excited about that. I was not expecting eggs for at least another year. So I'm hoping that these girls will actually lay this winter with their mom, and if all 3 lay and naturally hatch out their eggs, not only would that save me so much work and space in the incubator, so I honestly do not know and have never personally hatched goose eggs out. Now, I have seen someone do it. My uncle hatched out a lot of African geese when I was a kid, and I remember some of the process, but I have not done it all by myself, so I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm sure Google can help, but it is a lot. And see what I mean? They're all just tired of me already. Now that they're closer, you can see how all of those neck feathers, the way that they look, they're all getting them in their neck. That's something that previously the babies did not have, which is really cool. Look at this one's eating some of the grain out of here. It's a little harder to see because it's starting to get dark and we're in the coop. It would just take too long to turn on the light, and then they would run off by then because I unplugged the light earlier, because for whatever reason the geese keep coming through and purposefully trying to grab the cord, and I think that's both dangerous and a huge hazard for them, especially if they just decide to run through and run into the cord, let alone trying to pull it with their bills. Crazy geese. If you don't know, geese actually have some really sharp teeth on their tongues in their mouth, so they can actually chew through that cord if they wanted to, and that would be a horrific experience for everyone involved. The geese, especially me, it would be very dangerous. I just don't think that that would be cool. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to go ahead and rethink that light that's up there and the way that I plug it in. So Goose that's in the coop is actually their mama. And then back here is Daddy, that's Dorian. And then these three are all the babies. I'm not sure how this girl got so muddy. I'm guessing back where the little tiny blue pool is, because there's not mud anywhere else but that dirty water that's come out of that pond, little pool. And that's what's causing her to get muddy, I'm guessing. And they have this giant pond over here and access to it, and yet they're choosing to take over the kiddie pool, which was really supposed to be for the baby ducks to use, because they are just too small to get into that big pool yet and get out safely. I keep saying pool. The big body of water is a pond, and the little one is a small kiddie pool from our local grocery store that we just had for a few years. And I know I keep calling them both by the other's name. I just get it confused. So little, it's always, whether pond or pool, always referring to the kiddie pool, and big pond or pool will always refer to the largest body of water out here. I'm sorry for the confusion. But here you can kind of see an example of those feathers coming in on this one's neck. And then I don't know what's going on with those random feathers on this one's head. That's really strange the way that they're laying. Actually, a couple of them. So I wonder if that's the neck feathers coming in and they're just not laying like they should for whatever reason. It looks really silly. And there's their mama right there. She finally came out. And on her neck you can really see those ruffled up feathers. And that's what the babies are starting to get. Now, on these babies, this one I'm pretty sure is a female, like 100% certain. She's a girl because she has gray on her body. She was actually she was yellow but mostly gray tinged when she was a baby. And so we were pretty sure she was a girl, but she's also the size of her mom, and she has a very small head and neck compared to one of the other goslings. Now, this one, still fairly small. It looks a little bigger up close, but one of them over there, you can't tell, has a pretty big neck. So this one up here has a little neck, and then this one right here is the one with the big neck. And so we're thinking, although we're confused, this one might be a gander. The issue is it's still not very big. It's a little taller than its mom, but not towering over everyone like Dorian. But what I'm thinking is going to happen now that they're 3 months old and fully feathered for the most part, they are going to, and by fully feathered I mean even their neck ruffles are in. I really got to figure out what that name for those neck ruffles are and stop calling it that. I think now this one, within the next 2 or 3 months, we'll see, and if it grows to be massive compared to the rest of them and starts looking more and more like Dorian, then it'll be confirmed that this is 100% a gander. So that's something to kind of pay attention to with Embden geese. They do not make different sounds. They do not really have distinct markings, other than the girls tend to have some gray in their feathers, whereas the males after a certain age really don't. But what you're seeing on this guy's bottom half is not gray feathers, it's mud. And the only telltale sign is just the sheer size of the animal. And also, it really is true that the ganders tend to walk more like on alert with their heads held high, and then they just have significantly longer necks. So there is a major size difference, and it may be hard to see in the camera. People often ask, how do you tell them apart? But when you're in person, there's no mistaking that 10 to 15 pound difference. And they say that Embden geese are really not supposed to be 30 pounds, but Dorian is massive. He is the largest goose I've ever seen. So I would say, yes, your geese could definitely get over that size for sure. Honestly, if you're raising Embden geese for meat, I'd say About 3 to 4 months is a pretty good time to go ahead and butcher them. Even though they're not full size, it would still probably be really tender meat, and they are twice the size of a meat chicken. I mean, they are just absolutely massive, and overall, other than probably gaining fat, they're not gonna get much bigger from this point from like a meat to food ratio, I guess, perspective, because after about 3 months they're eating so much, they're just not gaining as much weight per pound of feed as they are as babies. So that's something to really consider, because unless you're breeding, it's just not worth it. So if you want to raise for meat, which a lot of people raise geese for meat, I don't see the point of raising them for eggs, because like our hen, she laid, I believe it was 11 eggs and 9 hatched. So, and they were all fertile. I did check, they were all fertile. The other 2 just didn't make it all the way, and it was the first 2 that were laid that did not make it. And I know that because I dated them to make sure with pencil. So for me, I'm not going to sit around and collect goose eggs because they just don't lay that many. It's more beneficial to have geese, especially because I wanted to expand my flock, and now we have at least 2 more hens and what we believe is another gander. So that gives us 2 ganders and 3 hens, and yes, this ratio will work just fine. You can pair them up one-on-one. You can do 2 ganders with 3 hens. I've even seen some people who do a more commercial operation do as many as 5 hens to 1 gander, but I don't know if I would do that many personally. But for me, having 2 ganders to 3 hens works out really well, and that's what I'm gonna stick with. So my son's fascinated that you can pair up geese from the same parents. You seem kind of fascinated.
I'm weirded out.
Oh, you're weirded out. Oh, I guess that would make more sense. But also, you know, with ducks you can't have that many males to females, so that's probably something that you're gonna have to get used to.
Mr. Duck.
Yeah, look at them. But anyways, it's starting to get kind of dark here, and I think we're gonna go ahead and head in because I hear a lot of thunder in the distance. So thank you guys for kind of hanging out and watching some of our geese and the changes that are happening. I'm not sure there will be many more update videos with our geese lately, because they're growing so much, but it's mostly weight gain at this point, and height. They're pretty much grown, they're feathered, so unless they start laying or do something really cool, there's just not any point in continuing to do weekly or monthly updates on them. But I'll still show them, and I'll show you the different nesting areas that we plan on building, so more about free ranging and other details. As I learn about geese, I'll be sharing them with you. So just don't be surprised when you don't see a goose video nearly as often. I know some of you are here mostly for the goose videos. The cool thing is that they're grown. The sad thing is that's just not as much to document anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and head in. I hope everyone else has a great night.